Henrietta gave Victoria some time to process reality before speaking her mind. There's something I've been meaning to ask, Sister Victoria. Why did you suddenly decide to come back here? It wasn't just to see me, was it? During their interaction, Henrietta had noticed Victoria displaying great interest and surprise at her power. However, her mind seemed to be elsewhere, as if she had other concerns. I won't lie to you, Sister Henrietta. Actually, this time, I returned to the Black Rose Kingdom to resume my search for my missing grandchild and was hoping you could provide some information to aid my search. It wasn't my intention to catch up on old times, Victoria admitted. I see. Henrietta was momentarily surprised before pausing to recall, if I remember correctly. You ended your search 2 years ago because the fire of Vivian's soul lamp was. That little fire was rekindled, Victoria firmly stated. It was rekindled. What? Henrietta expressed her shock, asking, how is that even possible? How can the fire of life be extinguished and rekindled? That would signify. I don't know how or when it happened. However, the undeniable truth is that the tiny fire of life in Vivian's soul lamp rekindled itself. My grandchild lives, and that's all that matters, Victoria stated with conviction but soon sighed. This child has been lost for 20 years. I must find and bring this poor child home. Vivian's child, huh? Henrietta muttered thoughtfully. Ha ha ha, I bet their talent wouldn't be inferior to Vivian's. Perhaps it is even greater. Wouldn't it be the great house of Caelestis's greatest blessing if this child turned out to be the destined overlord that everyone feared, Sister Victoria? Henrietta was only casually chatting before sipping her tea and studying Victoria's expression when she noticed a vague resemblance, causing something to click in her mind. 20 years old? Victoria's grandchild? Vivian's child? Peerless talent? Possible future overlord? One person immediately came to mind. PFTT. The intense shock of sudden realization caused Henrietta to spit out all the tea in her mouth. At the same time, Victoria, sitting opposite Henrietta, immediately became its victim. Victoria stared blankly for a moment, face blathered in spit and tea, before asking with a wry smile, are you all right, Sister Henrietta? What's the matter? Cough. 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 Henrietta faked a violent coughing fit before replying, I'm all right. I just swallowed tea down the whole hole, sis. Victoria. Suddenly, Henrietta found it difficult to address Victoria the same way she normally would. Simply thinking about it felt like a fishbone stuck in her throat. Blood was drained from her face, making it look pale white. Are you sure you are all right, Sister Henrietta? You look like you just saw a ghost or something, Victoria mentioned with concern and doubt. Henrietta's expression twisted, thinking to herself, did I see a ghost? You are the ghost. Oh, hell no. This can't be happening to me. I actually married and slept with my friend's grandchild. Do I still call her Sister Victoria or grandmother-in-law? Oh, Pangea. How do I face her in the future? This is so shameful and embarrassing. While Henrietta's mind was in turmoil and panic, Empyrean Scarlet Sea suddenly burst into laughter, ha 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 ha. This is certainly an interesting situation and predicament we have here. How could you just laugh like that, Master? I'm in this situation because of you. Henrietta sobbed, feeling miserable and torn by stress as Victoria stared at her cluelessly, awaiting her answer. He, there's no need to feel trapped, my dearest disciple. What's done is done. The only thing you can do is move forward bravely and accept whatever is to come of it, Empyrean Scarlet Sea chuckled and said, just tell her the truth. Don't tell me you want to hide the truth and stop a bereaved grandmother from reuniting with her long-lost grandson forever? Are you going to be so cruel? Empyrean Scarlet Sea added, anticipating Henrietta's reply with great amusement. Victoria naturally needs to know the truth about her grandson, but I can't tell her about my relationship with him. I can't. I just can't. Where would my face be if I did? I wouldn't be able to face her, Henrietta complained. Cuckoo, if you can't move past such a small and insignificant obstacle, you won't go far in life, my dearest disciple. Don't let it hold you back forever. There are only two types of people who can live long lives, villains and shameless people. Just thicken your skin and tell her the truth. Regardless of how she sees you, she would, no doubt, be overjoyed once she learns about her grandson, Empyrean Scarlet Sea said. Phew. Henrietta calmed herself down with a long breath and steadied her turbulent emotions before facing Victoria seriously. Never mind me for now, sis. Victoria. I've just realized something and may know who your missing grandchild is. I can see some similar features between you two, Henrietta confessed awkwardly. Victoria's eyes widened before she immediately grabbed Henrietta's shoulders with excitement. Really? Please tell me, Sister Henrietta. Who is my grandson? Where is he now? Can I see him? Victoria eagerly inquired while feeling her heart tearing apart. Oh, how he must have suffered all these years. A granddaughter wouldn't suffer much since witches had statuses in the 7 witch kingdoms. On the other hand, what could a 20-year-old young man without any backing do from infancy until now? He must have suffered terribly. Victoria's body trembled, and her heart chilled as she thought about her grandson's childhood. He left the 7 witch kingdoms to do some things, so you can't see him now. But even if he is outside the 7 witch kingdoms at the moment, there's no need for you to worry about his safety, sis. Victoria, what? He's just a 20-year-old young man. What can he even do outside, where danger is aplenty? Victoria anxiously questioned in her shock. What can he do, huh? Henrietta smiled wryly before saying, I don't know about other 20-year-old young men, but your grandson can do many things, Victoria. He changed the fate of the Black Rose Kingdom and annexed the Holy Knight Empire. It's quite possible that he currently wields the strongest power and commands the greatest military force in Pangaea. I believe you should have an idea about who I am talking about. It's hard not to hear about him, especially here, with the Vayanatics singing his tales and legends every day, Henrietta said. Vayanatics. It's the name of his fan group, but this fan group is more like a cult than anything else. They welcome anyone who shares their view and destroys anyone who opposes it. You can die from simply badmouthing their idol, Henrietta casually explained with a wry smile. The Vayanatics' extreme actions were causing countless problems. However, these troubled waters weren't something Henrietta wanted to dip her feet in. She would rather deal with the transcendent witches than intervene in the Vayanatics' matters. After all, the Vayanatics were led by a troublesome witch with mental issues, Aliana Leclerc. I see. Victoria uttered with a lost look, not knowing how to react to the news. With the last piece of information, Victoria no longer doubted that her missing grandson was most likely von Raffna, the young man who had been the center of attention and talk of the town in every witch kingdom. She had seen the portrait of the young man once, and only after recalling it again with attention to detail did she notice the young man's stunning resemblance to her fourth daughter. There were even some of her features in him, like Henrietta mentioned. Perhaps she had already noticed these details the first time she saw the portrait. However, she had chosen to ignore and forget about them. After all, her grandchild supposedly died 2 years ago. How could she dare to hold extravagant hopes when the fire of life was extinguished? Nevertheless, the more excellence Victoria learned about her missing grandson, the greater her worry. It was a new type of worry that sprouted just after her longest worry was finally put to rest. He did not have his family's support when he was young and weak. The hardship he suffered as an orphan must have been unimaginable. Now that he has grown powerful all on his own, I'm not sure he will accept us. Victoria expressed her concern with a helpless smile. After all, besides the blood they shared, they were no different from strangers. As an outsider, I have nothing to say about that, Henrietta thought about what to say before continuing. However, your greatest concern had always been his safety and well-being. Now that you know his situation, you should be overjoyed and proud, Victoria. Also, the sufferings he had experienced since birth were what shaped his being and aided his growth to become the man he is today. As such, while it was unfortunate to be lost at birth, it might not have been a bad thing. Real men are forged by hardship, Henrietta added. You might be right, Sister Henrietta. I shouldn't expect too much. My grandson being alive and well is already the best thing I could ask for, Victoria acknowledged and made peace with herself, becoming accepting of reality. Shortly after, Victoria glanced at Henrietta suspiciously and mentioned, by the way, you've been acting rather strange since a while ago, Sister Henrietta. What's up with that? Are you hiding something from me? Cough. Cough. Henrietta used a terrible distraction to change the topic. Never mind that, Victoria. There's something else I want to ask you. The current Black Rose Kingdom is no longer the same as it was in the past, it has grown far more powerful, just as I have. Have you no thoughts of relocating here? Your family doesn't need to hide in that perilous land anymore. Furthermore, it might be easiest for you to meet your grandson if you move here, Henrietta added. You have a point, Sister Henrietta. I suppose I should consider it. Victoria neither rejected nor accepted Henrietta's suggestion before mentioning, but while you and the Black Rose Kingdom had shed their former shells and grown much stronger, you have also attracted more attention and made more enemies. Forget outside threats, even your issue with the other transcendent witches remains unresolved. How do you plan to deal with them? Victoria asked. That's a good question, Victoria. Henrietta's eyes flashed with a cold glint as she smiled. I was actually settling my matters with them after this. If you don't mind sticking around, why don't I show you how I will deal with them? Alright, Victoria agreed, thinking she had time to spare, not to mention she was curious what Henrietta would do. Shortly after, Victoria followed Henrietta to a private meeting room, where the long-distance voice transmission crystal pillar used to contact the other 6 witch kingdoms was located. Henrietta used the communication crystal pillar to summon the remaining 5 transcendent witches, and surprisingly, they answered her call in a matter of a few dozen breaths. That was surprisingly quick. I had assumed you would all take much longer to answer my summoning, Henrietta commented with ridicule. I didn't answer your call to listen to your ridicule, Black Rose. Quickly explain the reason behind your call, or this queen will be hanging up. I have other things to do, the Scarlet Flame Transcendent Witch frowned with impatience and impertinence. I also have things to do, Black Rose. Please make it brief, if possible, the White Serpentine Transcendent Witch added with slightly creased brows. Frankly speaking, I'm sure Black Rose has nothing good to say, and I don't know why I even decided to waste my time accepting this call. So, I'll be off first, ladies, the Darkwater Transcendent Witch spoke frivolously, hoping to escape the call quickly. However, Henrietta's following words made her freeze on the spot immediately. If you dare to leave this call without listening to what I have to announce, I will pay your kingdom a visit, and I will end you. Just like how I ended the Verdant Wood, Henrietta coldly stated. Well. It doesn't hurt to stick around and listen for a bit, huh? Darkwater complied nervously, showing zero intention to refute and antagonize Henrietta as she was clearly intimidated by her threat. Scarlet Flame, White Serpentine, Raging Tempest, and Everwinter also revealed signs of discomfort and unease in their breathing. Evidently, Henrietta's threat didn't affect Darkwater alone. After all, even though Henrietta spoke to Darkwater, her threat was directed at all of them. In a short instant, the group chat became ghostly silent. Since it's quiet now, I will announce a few things. In the future, the 7 witch kingdoms will be unified under one rule, my rule, Henrietta announced. The kingdom of Scarlet Flame, the kingdom of Raging Tempest, the kingdom of Everwinter, the kingdom of White Serpentine, and the kingdom of Darkwater will become vassal kingdoms of the Black Rose Empire. Each of you will turn in 20% of your kingdom's resource production annually as tax, in person, and at the same time. We will also use that opportunity to hold an assembly to discuss all affairs. All royal and noble offsprings must be sent to Blackthorn Royal Academy of Magic for education once they turn 18. Those who have already completed their study and are still under the age of 30 must also be sent over for education. Any and all discoveries pertaining to the new knowledge of magic, technology, potioneering, mysteries, ancient inheritances, Gehenna, and chaos, in general, must be shared with the Black Rose Empire. I will not be happy if you keep secrets, and when I am not happy, there will be severe consequences. So do your best to remember that. Henrietta warned. Each of Henrietta's shocking conditions caused the 5 Transcendent Witches' expressions to darken until they couldn't tolerate it further and flush with anger. What the hell kind of announcement is this? There's no way I will agree to this. Black Rose, your joke went too far. Scarlet Flame was the first to disagree, expressing her strong disapproval and dissatisfaction. However, Henrietta remained indifferent to her protest. You must be muddle-headed and confused about something, Scarlet Flame. I am not asking you, I am telling you. Henrietta coldly asserted. It matters not to me whether you agree or disagree. If you are obedient, good for you, you get to keep your dog lives. However, if you are disobedient, I will just kill you, Henrietta added indifferently. Do you think it is wise to offend all of us like this, Black Rose? If we all disagree, what can you do about it? Do you think you can defeat all of us if we join forces? Scarlet Flame asked gloomily with a hint of threat. However, such an insignificant threat was akin to the squeaks of a rat, it didn't affect Henrietta whatsoever. That's for me to know and you to find out, Henrietta coolly replied before smiling coldly. However, do you dare to find out? Scarlet Flame immediately fell silent, unable to answer. She didn't dare to. Although the Black Rose Transcendent Witch of the past was already strong, she wasn't this overbearing and unreasonable. What changed? What gave her the confidence? What permitted her impertinence and disrespect? Why are you doing this to us, Black Rose? Although we haven't been quite friendly with each other, we have at least maintained a certain level of cordiality for the past 300 years, White Serpentine reasoned, full of unwillingness to comply. Maintained a certain level of cordiality? Henrietta scoffed with contempt when she heard those words. By maintaining a certain level of cordiality, do you mean joining hands with other Transcendent Witches to pressure me for valuable resources you neither deserve nor have a stake in? By maintaining a certain level of cordiality, do you mean secretly conspiring with each other to do harm to me and my kingdom? Where was this unity when the Holy Night Empire invaded my kingdom? Where was help? If you can't even uphold the agreement of the 7 Witch Kingdoms, your words are only fart to me. So do not speak to me about cordiality, White Serpentine, for my definition of cordiality seems very different from the cordiality you speak of, Henrietta coldly rebuked. White Serpentine was left speechless, unable to reply, and her face flushed with shame like she had been horribly slapped. Her words tore into White Serpentine like a vicious knife and ripped out her guilty conscience, causing White Serpentine to become silent with a flushed face full of shame. I have tolerated you all long enough, Henrietta continued. Not only are any of you grateful for my repeated concessions and benevolence towards your willful selves, but you all even dare to stab me in the back. The fact that I am wasting my life speaking to you and not rushing over to take your dog lives is already the greatest mercy I can bestow upon you. You only have this one final chance, it's your choice whether you want to squander it. You all have 3 days to think it over. If I don't receive an answer by the end of it, you can say goodbye to your lives. With her final statement spoken, Henrietta decisively left the group chat. Silence filled the group chat for a period of time as the 5 Transcendent Witches indignantly pondered over Henrietta's words. Sometime later, Darkwater broke the silence. What does everyone make of Black Rose's behavior today? It has already been many days since the Black Rose Kingdom's crisis was resolved. If Black Rose had simply been furious at us for not sending help back then, she wouldn't have chosen to openly threaten us at this time, White Serpentine thought logically with a frown. Those were also my thoughts exactly, Raging Tempest admitted before adding, Black Rose has always been the most powerful Transcendent Witch of us all, but since we are all at the same level, she wouldn't have the mana to defeat all of us if we band together. That was why we could repeatedly force her to make concessions, by abusing her soft heart and weakness. However, something has finally changed since then. She was cold, fearless, and overbearing today as if she no longer had such concerns. For her to openly challenge us like that. I just don't understand where this source of confidence comes from. Raging Tempest frowned. Don't forget the Black Rose Kingdom today is not the same Black Rose Kingdom of yesterday, it has another existence that can suffocate us all, Von Raffna, Scarlet Flame mentioned before guessing, perhaps Black Rose is relying on his strength to dominate us? That shouldn't be the case, Everwinter disagreed. Which of us Transcendent Witches haven't been a proud, lofty queen, lording over all witches and looking on men? I doubt Black Rose's pride would be so shallow that she would rely on a man's strength. Furthermore, if Von Raffna wanted something done, he would do it himself. Why would he give up the opportunity to increase his control and influence to someone else? Everwinter questioned. True. Scarlet Flame acknowledged before saying, no man, after living under the oppression of witches for so long, would throw away such an opportunity. That said, he is no ordinary man, I've only heard praises of him. It's one thing for men to worship him, but even witches idolize him. That's not surprising at all, Scarlet Flame, Everwinter casually replied. Witches who have received his blessings have all become high witches, and those closest to him are even more powerful high witches. I sometimes wonder if a new transcendent witch would arise soon due to him. Who wouldn't want to throw themselves at him in the face of such temptations? Even I am tempted. Perhaps he can help me take the next step, Everwinter admitted. You? Tempted to serve a man? Am I hearing things right, Everwinter? Scarlet Flame scoffed with doubt and derision. An untouchable ice queen like you wouldn't even accept noble consorts to produce an heir in these past 300 years. Don't tell me your frozen heart has finally been melted by that man's flames? I find that hard to believe, Scarlet Flame mocked. There's no need for a loose slut like you to act all lofty and noble in front of me, Scarlet Flame, Everwinter coldly bit back with her words, adding, there's a rumor that Von Raffna possesses a divine body of fire, something that may aid you greatly if you dual practice with him. Even I know this, so there's no way you don't know this, Scarlet Flame. You can harp like a proud and pure swan in front of me all you want, but I know, deep down, you are just a bitch in heat. And even if you are willing, it's not necessary that he will want to take you. Following Everwinter's sharp retort, Scarlet Flame's exasperated breath could be heard through the communication crystal pillar as her large mounds heaved up and down, trying to suppress her anger. You have a sharp tongue, Everwinter, Scarlet Flame said gloomily with a dark look, but I wonder if you fight as well with your spells as you do with your mouth. Enough. Raging Tempest snapped impatiently, tired of listening to the two. This conversation is getting nowhere, so I will be taking my leave. I don't care if you continue fighting after this. However, in these next 3 days, I will be investigating the source of Black Rose's confidence and sharing what I find. I expect you all to do the same. Sure, Darkwater. I don't have a problem with that. None of the 5 transcendent witches wanted to bow their heads to Henrietta and become her vassal if it could be helped. As such, none of them would readily submit unless they truly saw no hope. Meanwhile, after Henrietta left the group call with the transcendent witches, her shoulders slumped down like a deflating balloon as her energy left her body. All of her previous majesty and tyranny seemingly disappeared into thin smoke. Cuckoo. Empyrean Scarlet Sea suddenly chuckled with amusement inside Henrietta's mind, causing the latter to be curious and confused. Why are you laughing, master? Henrietta asked. Oh, it's nothing much. I just find it quite funny that my dear disciple can be bold and tough in front of the transcendent witches but doesn't have the same courage to admit the deed she had done to an old friend's grandson. Cuckoo. Empyrean Scarlet Sea chuckled. This and that are 2 completely different matters, master. Henrietta grimaced helplessly. Ha ha ha. Empyrean Scarlet Sea continued to laugh as she teased her disciple. Meanwhile, Victoria was left completely shocked by Henrietta's discussion with the other transcendent witches. She didn't expect Henrietta to deal with them in such an overbearing and decisive manner. There was no diplomacy involved, just blatant threats of violence and death. Henrietta had torn apart every remaining facade of friendship and aggressively demanded the transcendent witch's subordination. There was no turning back from that. This. Victoria felt a little fearful of the future as she glanced at Henrietta with disbelief. Do you think those 5 transcendent witches will really bow down to you, Sister Henrietta? If they don't, they will become like Queen Sybil, a part of history. It's as simple as that, Henrietta calmly stated. But I understand your concerns, but they are unfounded. Henrietta shook her head and said, those 5 no longer have what it takes to compete with me. The promotion to 8 mana rings isn't as simple as the advancement of a minor stage. The higher one's rank, the greater the difference between minor stages. This is especially true for the transcendent rank. Although I've only advanced to the middle stage from the early stage of the transcendent rank, I feel like my magical prowess has doubled. Perhaps this is also why it was so difficult for transcendent witches to advance, Henrietta guessed blankly, looking a little lost in thought. If she had not dual practiced with Von, it was uncertain how much longer it would have taken her to achieve 8 mana rings. I wonder what he is doing now. Henrietta couldn't help thinking for a moment before suddenly shaking the thought out of her mind. Pa. Why am I thinking about him? It can't be that I miss him, right? I see. Henrietta's assurance helped Victoria understand the difference between her and the other transcendent witches. However, it still didn't free her from worries. I still fear things aren't that simple, Sister Henrietta. These transcendent witches have been enjoying the privileges of their rule for so long. They won't be willing to give it up so easily. There's a chance they may seek a third choice besides death or submission. Victoria raised her concern. Henrietta's eyes flashed with coldness as she understood what Victoria hinted at. Victoria was concerned that if she pushed the transcendent witches too hard, they would resist her with everything they had, regardless of their means and consequences, even if it meant joining hands with the devils. If they are foolish enough to go down that path, it would be even better. Getting the opportunity to remove hidden tumors and weaken Gehenna at the same time is not a disaster but a blessing. Henrietta coolly stated. Recent events have already made things clear to me that they are all selfish and unrepentant in their ways. Everyone desires freedom, but uncontrolled freedom leads to corruption, turning even upright people into vile and immoral beings. This is what happens when humans believe their actions bear no consequences. That's why rulers create laws to govern people. We set clear boundaries and deliver appropriate punishments to control people's actions. When rulers lack self-discipline, they fail to heed their own laws and become the problem. I will be the whip that keeps their leashes in line. If they can behave, then all is well. But if they can't, then we are better off without them. Since she had the power to be a dictator, she couldn't settle for diplomacy. People only used diplomacy when they were of equal standing. They weren't. Not anymore. Victoria had goosebumps as she listened to Henrietta's declaration. It was only now that she truly saw her changes and resolve. Henrietta never desired the throne, but now, she was finally assuming responsibilities and acting like a true leader of the witches. As the strongest witch since the dawn of magic, who else but her deserved to rule over all witches? Just as Victoria had that thought, she recalled that her missing grandson's influence was even greater than Henrietta's. Henrietta was the nominal ruler of the Black Rose Kingdom, but her grandson's influence eclipsed hers. The contradiction of two leaders in one country would give rise to unease and fear for the future. Who should I support? Victoria wondered. One was her family's benefactor, to whom they were greatly indebted, and the other was her missing grandson, whom she owed 20 years of care and affection and had always felt guilty about. No, I should not think like that. Henrietta will rule over the witches, while my grandson is destined to rule over the whole world. Their positions do not conflict and could even be mutually supporting. All present and future problems would be resolved if I pair the two together. Victoria's eyes brightened at once before pondering. How should I approach Henrietta regarding this matter? Given our friendship, she might strongly oppose the idea of marrying my grandson. But my grandson might not necessarily like her and agree either. No, Henrietta is single, and she is also a natural beauty. My grandson will definitely like her. Victoria racked her brain with worry as she tried to figure out how to bring the two together. Meanwhile, Henrietta noticed Victoria's constantly changing expressions between frowns and foolish grins. She's plotting something, Henrietta thought. Great Rathalos Empire, Imperial Capital. The battle between the Delarosas and the Imperial army raged on as both sides fought hard to exterminate each other. With Emperor Varen trapped in a spiritual land of the dead, the Imperial army was forced into a disadvantageous and passive state, where it was hard to advance and difficult to retreat. They could only hold the stalemate until the winds of favor blew their way. Commander, the battle is steadily tilting in our enemy's favor. We will not last long at this rate, an Imperial guard alerted. The Delarosan curses lacked killing power, but they were far more destructive in their ability to sow chaos within the ranks of the Imperial soldiers. The Imperial guards were restrained from demonstrating their full fighting potential due to the disorder of the cursed Imperial soldiers among them. Under such chaos and disorder, everyone became free targets for offensive totem spells. To think the Delarosas could push us this far. Without His Imperial Majesty, we, the Imperial guards, are actually this pathetic. Arg. If only we had the senior guards with us, the commander of the Imperial Guards roared with vexation and distress. As the only other transcendent-level warrior around, he was forced to face Matriarch Lilana and the Delarosan elders alone. Moreover, he was severely mismatched in abilities and terrain. Ha ha ha. Go to hell, Imperial scums. Taste the fearsome might of my totem power. You fools trained like freaks all your life for a bit of strength. On the other hand, I only need to train overnight to acquire this power. At the same time, his words dealt a serious blow to some of the Imperial soldiers' warrior spirit. You can use powerful spells like that from a single night of training. What the hell have I been desperately training my body for? Not good. Our morale is greatly dropping. We need our Emperor's presence to reignite our fighting spirit. Kill. Several nearby Imperial guards charged with desperation in their reddened eyes as they slaughtered their way through the ranks of Delarosan shamans and witch doctors with their captain. Maiming, laceration, burning, cutting, piercing. The Imperial guards disregarded all risks of injuries along the way and threw themselves into the cloud of black smoke like mad beasts. Such desperation and madness even shook the hearts of some Delarosans. So crazy. Is this the madness of war? While the Imperial army fought out of responsibility, the Delarosas fought for survival. As such, the Delarosas had higher morale and advantage. But as the blood of the fallen soaked the ground and the stench of death permeated through the air, the younger Delarosan members cowered before the Imperial Guard's fierce gazes. The inexperienced were all shaken by the horrors of war. Meanwhile, Emperor Varen continued to fight off the endless horde of undead within the boundless world with the crimson sky. Broken corpses littered the land and piled up like mountains wherever Emperor Varen moved. However, they quickly disappeared under the sea of swarming undead that followed after him. Suddenly, Emperor Varen heard the cries of his guards and soldiers nearby as they were startled by the nightmarish environment they were thrown in. Get away from me. Die, you undead bastard. Chaos and panic quickly erupted among the Imperial guards and nevertheless, they didn't lose their reason and fought off the swarming sea of undead beings to the best of their abilities. There's a battle of there, the captain-ranked Imperial Guard noticed before spotting Emperor Varen. It's His Imperial Majesty. It's great that you are safe, Your Majesty. But what is this hellish place? That's what I also want to know. He didn't expect to see his soldiers and guards in such a place. Was this desolate world with the crimson sky not a figment of his imagination under the effect of a curse? How did you all come here? What's the situation outside? Emperor Varen inquired. 1137. It's bad, Your Imperial Majesty. Your men need you outside. Emperor Varen inquired. It's bad, Your Imperial Majesty. The group gradually met up with Emperor Varen and worked together to cover their blind spots. We are also clueless about how we ended up here. It doesn't feel like a dream or nightmare. Rather, it feels like we've been transported to another world. Before long, the Imperial Guards noticed the nasty black flesh on Emperor Varen's body. Try not to get clawed or bitten by these vile creatures. Although Emperor Varen's wounds looked serious, they were only surface injuries. I understand, Your Majesty. You heard the Emperor. Be careful, everyone. As Emperor Varen and the Imperial Guards fought off the endless horde of undead that kept spawning, they faced a big question. Quickly look for clues on how to leave this place. Even he couldn't believe what he was saying, as the idea in and of itself was absurd. However, it was also the only plausible reason for his realistic wound. If he died in this desolate land of the dead, he may very well die for real. Gehenna? How is that even possible? What kind of power can connect Pangea and Gehenna like this? An Imperial Guard cried, alarmed by the horrid possibility. What kind of power could connect Pangea and Gehenna just like that? No one trapped in the desolate world with the crimson sky needed to answer such a question, for there was only one answer they could give: the power of a great devil. After all, the great devils were existences with unfathomable might and capabilities. Gehenna was also a place where anything seemed possible through magic. Emperor Varen and his guards believed if Galen truly connected Pangaea and Gehenna, it could only have been done with the power of a great devil. Furthermore, there was only one known way for a human to wield the power of a great devil: through a contract. Emperor Varen started to suspect Galen de la Rosa was a first-generation devil's contractor. But while the identity of a devil's contractor could explain Galen's long lifespan, he still couldn't shrug off a feeling of doubt. Could the power of a great devil truly connect Pangaea and Gehenna so easily? If it was as simple as he was assuming, why haven't the great devils used it to conquer other parts of Pangaea? Since the contradiction existed, the reasoning must be flawed. Emperor Varen racked his brain for other possibilities that might have. The wounds are real, but the place may not be. Suddenly, he made an upward sword slash, shooting off his sword wave into the sky on a whim. However, contrary to the sword wave growing distant into the vast sky, it abruptly disappeared after a short 30-meter flight, like as if it had passed through some invisible barrier. Emperor Varen narrowed his eyes at the sight. In that instant, he was enlightened. The seemingly boundless, desolate world with the crimson sky truly wasn't a place in Gehenna. The undead themselves weren't strong. In fact, they were pitifully weak. However, their great numbers could still generate a sense of great threat. I understand now. We are trapped inside some kind of magical domain Galen created. Everything you see is just something he conjured with his imagination for us to see, Emperor Varen explained. However, don't be mistaken. Just because everything isn't necessarily real, it isn't fake, either. Reality and illusory are mixed in this temporary domain to hide the true dangers within, at least, as far as I understand. I could be wrong, but I shouldn't be far from the truth. The Imperial Guards felt their heads hurt listening to their Emperor's analysis of the world they were trapped in. In the end, they didn't understand anything and felt even more confused. Reality and illusions were mixed. Not real, but also not fake. Who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? Basically, the real dangers are hidden within the illusions we see. These undead beings aren't real, but their attacks are, is what His Majesty is saying. Such an unusual yet terrifying ability. I've never heard or seen anything like this before. Never mind that, Captain. How do we leave this place, even if we know what it is? Don't tell me we'll be stuck here forever. These vile creatures aren't strong. But given time, we'll still be tired to death even if we aren't careless, an Imperial Guard said with concern. No, maintaining this domain definitely consumes a lot of magic and mental power. The one who summoned this slaughter domain shouldn't be able to hold it for long, Emperor Varen guessed. In fact, I reckon the faster we slay these undead beings, the faster Galen's magical and mental power will be consumed. This will allow us to escape his domain sooner. Emperor Varen also realized the De La Rosas were most likely doing their best to prevent others from entering the domain. After all, why would they only trap him if they could trap more? Evidently, trapping more people inside the domain also increases the consumption of Galen's magical and mental power. Is that really it, though? The captain doubted, thinking, while this domain ability seems quite troublesome to deal with, it lacks real killing power. Using this ability only wages a battle of attrition to waste time. Thus, while the ability itself is quite magical, it doesn't make Galen seem all that powerful. Is this really all that a devil's contractor can amount to? That's quite true. This devil's contractor doesn't sound all that impressive when you put it that way, and perhaps Galen's devil-bestowed abilities declined due to his old age? Meanwhile, in the battle outside, the commander of the Imperial Guards found it increasingly difficult to cope with so many troublesome opponents at once as the battle dragged on. With increasing fatigue, the Imperial commander's speed and strength declined, resulting in him taking a rank 5 water bullet head-on while in midair. Bang! Although the Imperial commander blocked the magical spell with his sword, the impact flung him into a crowd of Imperial soldiers, crushing them underneath. Quickly press the attack and take him down. Do not give him a chance to catch his breath. Emperor Varen will be released soon. Matriarch Liliana roared. The High Elders heeded her command and quickly activated their strongest totem powers. In the next instant, numerous powerful spells flew in the Imperial commander's direction before he could recover. Commander! Many Imperial guards quickly cried in alarm, noticing the situation had taken a turn for the worse. At the same time, the Imperial commander knew he was a goner when he looked up. He didn't have enough time to dodge all the incoming spells. Boom! Numerous rank 5 magical spells barraged the Imperial commander's location mercilessly. Such small-scale yet concentrated destructive power was beyond lethal, leaving nothing left of the Imperial commander and nearby soldiers and guards if it had made contact. However, no one mourned for any losses, for they were all stunned and surprised. At the very last moment, a barrier of blue light suddenly appeared, shielding the Imperial commander, guards, and soldiers in the area. Not only did the blue barrier save them, but it also soundlessly absorbed every incoming attack. It was as if the various magical spells had slipped through a crack in space and disappeared into the infinite void. Who? Matriarch Liliana roared into the sky with a nasty, grave look. It was the perfect opportunity to eliminate a transcendent rank warrior, and yet they still missed it because of a third-party intervention. More importantly, whoever intervened was unbelievably skilled in magic. Matriarch Liliana was greatly alarmed by that fact. Previous chapter. For a brief moment, many people from both sides paused their battle to follow Matriarch Liliana's gaze and look into the sky. However, they didn't find anything when they looked up. Despite that, Matriarch Lilana's gaze remained fixated on the sky as if she was confident something was hidden up there, even though she herself couldn't detect any presence. It was just a reasonable conclusion based on her analysis of the environment. After all, where else could a third party be to spy on the ongoing situation within her family's outer courtyard and intervene on time? Show yourself. What kind of coward dares to act yet also hides themselves? Matriarch Lilana provoked the unknown party with insults. Roar. Suddenly, a soft dragon roar resounded throughout the sky. Although this dragon roar was loud and clear to everyone, even powerful enough to shake their hearts, it was no different from a snort in the dragon language. Shortly after, Kvat dispelled his camouflaging light barrier and emerged from his hiding, revealing his true appearance for all to see. His gaze bore down on Matriarch Lilana and made her feel unspeakable pressure. A true dragon. Multiple cries of surprise and shock sounded at the sighting of Kvat's majestic, scaled body hanging in the sky, emanating with unfathomable draconic might and pressure. Kvat was only a recently ascended transcendent rank true dragon. However, his presence seemed to be on par with or even greater than Emperor Varen's. This was the difference between a superior species and an inferior one. Kvat only gave Matriarch Lilana an indifferent, passing glance before announcing to everyone the purpose of his arrival. At the behest of my god, Kvat of the Red Dragon clan, am here to lend my support to the great Rathalos Empire in eliminating the scourge known as the De La Rosa household. Boom. It was only some casually spoken words, but Kvat's shocking announcement rang like thunder in everyone's mind. Each word seemed to be filled with power as it resonated with the world. Nevertheless, the unexpected good news came too abruptly. The Imperial soldiers and guards didn't know how to react to it. They stared blankly for a moment and tried to process the information carefully before they finally expressed their pleasant surprise and joy. Such a mighty-looking true dragon actually came to help us. And it is even at the command of someone else. This is pleasant and shocking news. But I wonder who is his god? Who else could it be? It has to be a dragon god. Can you believe that? There's actually a dragon god in this world. Do not be distracted unless you want to die. We are still in the middle of a war. The Imperial soldiers were full of excitement, but their superior commanding officers couldn't be the same. It looks like we are in good hands. He was only moments away from death just a short while ago. Meanwhile, Kvat's announcement and arrival did not receive positive responses among the De La Rosas. That's a true dragon from the legends? Its presence is on a completely different level from the Wyverns, and it is as intimidating as the Emperor himself. Can we defeat that thing? Do we even have any chance of winning? The lower-ranking De La Rosan members were quick to start thinking negatively with despair under Kvat's oppressive aura. Do not falter. A true dragon's appearance changes nothing. It's either they die, or we die. So, if you don't want to die, fight with everything you have for me. The true dragon is nothing to fear. It's just an oversized lizard with wings. Just an oversized lizard with wings, huh? He could ignore insults directed at him, but he wouldn't tolerate insults towards his race. He was proud to be a member of the Red Dragon clan and wouldn't let anyone get away after degrading it. Human, you are far too arrogant. I would like to see where your confidence comes from. Following Kvat's words, he directed his snout at Matriarch Lilana as his upper chest lit up with intense glowing red light. Matriarch Lilana immediately trembled at the sight. Kvat only took a single breath to focus a tremendous amount of magical power into a single point for his upcoming spell. However, that was all Matriarch Lilana needed to see to sense the terrifying threat it posed to her life. Take cover. The dragon is going to use its fire breath. Given the fabled widespread destruction of dragon's fire breath, she didn't have time to worry about anyone else besides her great-grandfather. Everyone, get out of the way. In that instant, Kvat unleashed his charged spell, and the blazing light of fire erupted from his mouth. Zing! Contrary to everyone's belief, they did not hear and see the booming roar of a dragon's fire breath but the sharp pulsation of a fire beam whizzing through the air like lightning. The heavily concentrated fire beam descended from the sky and reached the ground instantly, scorching everything in its path and at a speed far quicker than anyone could expect. Dozens of regular De La Rosan members barely had time to react before they fell victim to its path, their bodies incinerated to the point of disintegrating into scattering black ashes. The fire beam continued to chase after Matriarch Lilana, leaving behind a trail of scorched wasteland and broken charcoal corpses. It sheared right through the durable inner walls, which even rank 5 Magitech cannons would fail to destroy in a few shots. Before the fire beam, any and all forms of defense seemed meaningless, like butter in front of a hot knife. The fire beam did not cause a wide area of destruction, but its destructive power was evidently beyond everyone's imagination. It seemed unparalleled and unstoppable. Damn it. Matriarch Lilana cursed. She had retreated early, but the fire beam still caught up to her instantly. Kvat's fire beam was like judgment flames sent down from the heavens to smite her for her sins along with her family. Knowing it was impossible to evade, she decisively hurled her great-grandfather out of the way. She could die, but her great-grandfather must live. Ah! Matriarch Lilana's agonized scream ended abruptly as soon as it began as the fire beam vaporized her. The family head is gone. The De La Rosan members paled with blank looks. They had worked up their fighting spirit under Matriarch Lilana's incitement, but the weight of reality immediately crushed it. So this is the might of a true dragon. Such devastation. Ah, this must be retribution for the sins we have committed. The lucky surviving High Elders almost pissed themselves. In front of such absolute power, who could even resist? On the other side of the outer courtyard, the Imperial commander sucked in a deep breath of cool air. Not only did Kvat's seemingly unstoppable fire beam kill the enemy leader, but it also crushed the enemy's fighting spirit and snuffed out the rebellious flames in their hearts. It was an overwhelming victory made with a single, "Pho." The dragons must never be offended. Inside the Della Rosa household's outer courtyard, the sounds of battle died down, and the cloud of black smoke that occupied a section of the center also dispersed. Emperor Varen and several dozen Imperial guards were freed from the endless slaughter domain. Although they were surprised by the sudden release, the lack of battle surprised them. They had expected to rejoin a fierce fight. However, there was no fighting, nothing. Just 2,000 Della Rosan members slumped to the ground, at the mercy of the Imperial soldiers and guards. Your Majesty, are you all right? Your wounds look serious. A concerned Imperial Guard captain approached Emperor Varen with concern before making a suggestion. Should I immediately set out to find you a healer, Your Majesty? Although Emperor Varen had escaped the endless slaughter domain, the injuries he had sustained from the hordes of undead remained. The slight cuts weren't worth mentioning, but the corpse poison that pervaded his skin, blackening his flesh and blood, looked awfully serious. No need. It's just surface wounds that I have under control. The corpse poison poses no threat to my health or my life. He saw the dispirited Della Rosan members, the scorched devastation, Matriarch Lilana's absence, and even the true dragon in the sky. Putting the clues together, he was able to grasp the situation. Nevertheless, Emperor Varen still demanded, who can tell me what happened here? The battle seems to have ended, Your Majesty. The Imperial Guard captain answered, glancing around with uncertainty before continuing. After the venerable Kvat came to assist us and killed Matriarch Lilana with a single attack, the Della Rosas seem to have lost their will to fight. On behalf of the great Rathalos Empire, I would like to thank you for your help, venerable Kvat. Emperor Varen quickly paid his respects to Kvat. No need, human emperor. I was only acting on behalf of my god, Kvat coolly replied. Emperor Varen didn't mind Kvat's indifference. He continued to question Joru. What about Galen Della Rosa? Where is that devil's contractor? So long as Galen wasn't dead, the battle wasn't over. The Imperial Guard captain was surprised by Emperor Varen's accusation, but he quickly recovered his wits and replied, Galen Della Rosa seems to have been partially struck by venerable Kvat's attack and perished as well. His body is lying on the ground lifelessly over there, Your Majesty. The Imperial Guard captain pointed in the direction of the inner courtyard, a short distance away from the end of the scorched area. Do you really think Galen Della Rosa is a devil's contractor, Your Majesty? The Imperial Guard commander arrived with a frown, thinking, I heard devil's contractors are very powerful. Galen Della Rosa seems a little too weak to match such a description, Your Majesty, the Imperial Guard commander added. Ah, you're all right, Commander Joru. Emperor Varen calmly acknowledged the Imperial Guard commander's presence before saying, I also think Galen was a little too weak for a devil's contractor if he died just like that. However, devil's contractors are only strong because of the divine powers and abilities granted by their great devils. That said, there is also a division among the great devils between those with strong battle abilities and those without. Hecate the Mystical, the great devil of illusion, witchcraft, sorcery, shadows, light, moon, duality of good and evil. Ugh, anyway, great devil Hecate possesses too many divine abilities. However, none of them seem to be directly oriented to combat, Emperor Varen mentioned. Are you saying this old demon Galen is contracted to great devil Hecate, Your Majesty? Joru sought Emperor Varen's confirmation. Most likely, Emperor Varen didn't give a definite answer. Based on what they knew, great devil Hecate's divine abilities and knowledge would explain everything about Galen and his Della Rosa household. However, that was, after all, based on what they did know. It was hard to say where the 7 great devils had overlapping divine abilities and knowledge, even if they may be at superficial levels. Even so, besides Hecate, he couldn't think of any other great devil. Inside the inner courtyard, Emperor Varen and his people soon located Galen's body a few meters away from the scorched area. Only half of Galen's body had been scorched black, but it remained motionless without a breath of life, seemingly dead. Even Emperor Varen couldn't sense any life in it. However, Emperor Varen still frowned. Kvat also sensed something wrong at that moment. That's not right. That woman was reduced to cinders and ashes in my flames, so how can this old man's body be intact? Kvat doubted. Having consumed half his magical power, he, of all people, knew best just how powerful his fiery attack was. And yet, it actually failed to destroy a human body. Even if it was a head-on blow, the person still got half of his body caught in it. That half should have been reduced to cinders and ashes like the woman. And yet, it didn't. I don't know what's going on here, but devil's contractors without their humanity are calamities. It is for the best that I make sure this thing is dead. Alas, he felt destroying the heart wasn't enough. Thus, he retracted his sword, preparing to cut off Galen's head. However, the moment his sword descended on Galen's neck, the latter's eyes instantly snapped open with eerie, crimson light, and his hand caught the sword's blade. Bang! A powerful force was transmitted into the ground through Galen's body, causing cracks to appear underneath it. Despite that, the sword's blade caught between Galen's fingers failed to move an inch closer to his neck. Don't you know it's rude to disturb an old man's sleep, Varen boy? Galen criticized as his crimson eyes flashed with greater eerie intensity. Emperor Varen felt threatened by the unknown and quickly retreated with a big leap. Shortly after, Galen rose to his feet like a ghostly tube man being filled with air, and his original lifeless body erupted with vibrant life force, mending his pierced heart and fleshly wounds. At the same time, cracks spread all over Galen's blackened left half before falling off like broken shells, revealing the gleaming, fresh, tender skin underneath. Galen's wrinkles disappeared, his ash-white hair turned black, and his beard hair also fell off. The original elderly man had transformed into a dashing younger version of himself as if he had just shaved off 250 years of his age. Not only did he come back to life, but he was reborn anew. Such a startling and bizarre transformation caused Emperor Varen and his men to retreat even further with somber looks. What kind of thing are you, Galen? Emperor Varen frowned deeply. The current Galen did not feel any weaker than him. No, the person might even be stronger. What do you mean by that, Varen boy? Can't you see that I am human? Galen replied with a grin. Secretly, even he was surprised by the power coursing through his body. He didn't expect his second awakening to be so powerful. Don't play dumb with me, Galen, Emperor Varen replied with gloom. The great devil Hecate is of the black-winged fairy demon race. Such a race is known for its distinctive black wings, hair, eyes, and tender, fair skin, making it one of the most beautiful demon races according to human aesthetics. But you? Even if you were contracted to great devil Hecate via her blood and became an indirect member of the black-winged fairy demon race, you shouldn't have such bloodthirsty red eyes. You. Just what in the world have you done to yourself? What kind of a price did you pay for such a transformation? Emperor Varen questioned as he delayed for time to determine Galen's strength. Kovat had also mentally transmitted to him his need to recover his mana. Kakik, Galen chuckled sinisterly before saying, I know what you're trying to do, Varen boy. But since I am in a good mood, I will entertain you. Did you know there are 3 different ways to be contracted to a great devil? The most common method is naturally via magic to accept an oath to the great devil and be bound by the great devil's divine power. The second method is to be transplanted with the great devil's blood essence and become their kin. This kind of method is an honor that even demons rarely get to enjoy, let alone humans. But once they do, they will inherit the great devil's physical traits, innate talents, and divine abilities, depending on their compatibility. Since you know these aren't the eyes of someone from the black-winged fairy demon race, why don't you guess where it came from? Galen suggested playfully. Emperor Varen and Kovat frowned. Emperor Varen could only vaguely sense Galen's present strength, but Kovat was even clearer about it. Before the transformation, Galen was only a late-stage transcendent with a few months of lifespan. But after the transformation, he became a peak-stage transcendent with 1,000 years of lifespan. Moreover, Kovat also vaguely sensed Galen could fight above his level, his dangerous aura told him so. Red eyes. Red eyes. Among demons, it's not a rare trait. But among the 7 great devils, only 2 possess it. Great Devil Astarte, the queen of succubi, and Great Devil Abaddon, the ancestor of vampires. Emperor Varen mentioned with a heavy heart. Among the 7 great devils, Astarte and Abaddon were in the upper half of the most troublesome great devils to worry about. This had to do with their innate nature. After all, Astarte the Charming was the great devil of love, sex, fertility, and, more importantly, war. On the other hand, Abaddon the Sinister was the great devil of blood, slaughter, shadows, and nightmare. He was known to be the incarnation of evil. The domains of both great devils were filled with conflicts and war. Ironically, their domains had more deaths than Thanatos', the land of the one known as the Herald of Death. In fact, Thanatos' domain was the most peaceful of the 7 great devil domains. Thanatos was the Lich King, the great devil of death and sleep. His domain was a place for the non-living to enjoy eternal slumber. There couldn't be any conflict if all living beings avoided it. It was a land for the dead. Nevertheless, whether it was Astarte or Abaddon, none of them seemed like good news for the great Rathalos Empire. While Emperor Varen and his people were wary of Galen's presence, the De La Rosas found their hearts relit with hope. However, they didn't rejoice right away. They signaled each other under the silent directives of their high elders while everyone else had their attention on Galen. The De La Rosas subtly pulled their forces away to reform their ranks closer to Galen for their counterattack. Old ancestor, it's great that you are alive. Our people are ready to fight alongside you. You just have to give us the signal, a high elder softly whispered after silently reaching Galen's side. Very good. I will remember your contribution, Galen exclaimed with satisfaction. Emperor Varen wasn't the only one trying to buy time. Nevertheless, before the High Elder could rejoice and feel honored with Galen's acknowledgement, he was quickly stunned by what followed. Poochie. Galen emotionlessly drove his hand right through the High Elder's chest and ripped out his beating heart. Old ancestor. Why you? The High Elder pointed at Galen with disbelief and pain, and his face quickly paled as coldness seeped into his being. Galen ignored the High Elder's disheartened look of betrayal and squeezed the fresh heart over his mouth in a bid to drink its blood. Stop him. Emperor Varen and several other rank 5 true dragons in hiding reacted instantly. Alas, they were already a step too late. Galen tasted his first blood since his rebirth and immediately awakened his new innate ability, blood manipulation. Swoosh. A pool of blood was instantly drained from the High Elder's body before revolving around Galen's body at high speed, turning into a blood tornado. Surprisingly, such a meager amount of blood successfully repelled every attack aimed at Galen. At the same time, the blood spilled throughout the De La Rosa household gathered and assimilated with the blood tornado, further enhancing its size and power. Within a short time, it grew into an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. Ha ha ha. So this is blood manipulation? This ability is much more useful than my dream domain. Galen laughed heartily, feeling invincible from the seemingly limitless power of blood he commanded. Emperor Varen trembled with fury as he finally understood who Galen contracted. Old bastard. You actually contracted Abaddon, that evil incarnate. Do you have any idea what you have done? How dare you do such a thing? Emperor Varen furiously condemned Galen. Ha ha ha. As long as I can use magic and live longer, who wouldn't I dare to contract? If I could keep living, why would I care about the consequences? And if I die, what does the living have to do with me? Galen laughed selfishly. I must thank you, Varen boy. If not for your stab and small blood offering, the great devil's blood sealed in my heart wouldn't have activated so soon. To show you my gratitude, I will make everyone my offering and let you watch as I transcend mortality. Ha ha ha. Don't you feel honored, Varen boy? Galen coldly smiled. It is indeed foolish to try and reason with a demon. Demon. There isn't a shred of humanity left in you. Emperor Varen acknowledged his mistake as he sighed. I should have gone for the head first. Kakik, it's too late to regret now. Galen grinned before urging impatiently. Come. Let us fight. You can all join, too, little lizards. Don't be shy. I want to test the limits of my power. Previous chapter. Kvat, what is going on here? How can this human be so strong? His previous small pool of blood was powerful enough to repel all our magical attacks. Freygar frowned at Galen's unreasonable strength. As an early Transcendent True Dragon, she could output the power of a peak Transcendent due to her mastery of magic. Although she didn't actually generate such a level of power in her haste to attack along with the others, Galen still faced 5 such attacks. Even true peak Transcendents would find it difficult to face so many Transcendent level attacks. However, Galen still managed it. I'm afraid this demonic human's power is already at the threshold of the demigods. Kvat frowned before recalling Galen's word. Few humans have lived as long as he has. It's also possible he has been a devil's contractor since Gehenna's appearance. In other words, he could have been a devil's contractor for at least 300 years. That is a lot of time for someone to understand their abilities as a devil's contractor. But what I find most concerning is the way he spoke about his abilities. If we add in our previously conceived notions regarding Galen's background, then... Kvat didn't finish his words, but Freygar and the others quickly understood his implication. It wasn't difficult to comprehend at all. After all, Galen was previously believed to be contracted to Hecate, but he ended up revealing the distinct traits and abilities of Abaddon. No one has ever heard of a double contractor before. However, just because no one has ever heard or seen one before, it didn't mean it wasn't possible. Galen was most likely the living example of a double contractor. There has never been a double contractor before. To wield the divine abilities of 2 great devils. Just how strong would he become if we let him grow? Freygar wondered with a horrid expression. I can't say for sure, but I do know that it will be nearly impossible to deal with this demonic human, just the current people and dragons we have here, said Piero, another early Transcendent True Dragon. We may have to ask for more reinforcements or request the Supreme Leader to act. Absolutely not. We cannot disturb the Supreme Leader at this time. Kvat firmly refused the suggestion, leaving no room for negotiation on the matter. The Supreme Leader is at a crucial point in his cultivation on the Black Mountain and cannot deal with the Great Rathalos Empire's crisis right now. That is why the Supreme Leader sent us to act in his stead. The Supreme Leader mustn't be disturbed. Never. Understand? Kvat stressed. In that case, we can only seek the others for help, Piero calmly stated. A few moments later, he informed everyone, all right, I already sent the word to Kizi. She said she would notify the patrolling dragons and send them our way for us. Good. Kvat acknowledged. Meanwhile, the number of troops gathered outside the Della Rosa household had increased by 10-fold since the start of the battle. However, the Imperial army only accounted for a quarter of the number. Your Majesty, I have completed your task without. The conflict between the 2 ducal factions has been resolved, and they are now here with me to provide support, an elderly warrior in Imperial Guard armor reported. Please command us. It's the senior Imperial Guards. The senior Imperial Guards are here to help. Joru exclaimed with excitement. The senior Imperial Guards were from the oldest generations of Imperial Guards. All of them had lived long lives, but more importantly, they were all Transcendent level warriors. Even the Dukes and their people are here to help. I'm sure we can take down this old demon with their help, Your Majesty. Big brother, you better leave behind some rats for me. I am very mad. I have believed myself to be very wise, yet I was still plagued by a mere Della Rosa household. This grievance of mine must be avenged by me. Duke Gamliel's loud, indignant voice was heard from the outside. Don't forget about me. I am also here, big brother. I can't wait to slaughter these traitorous bastards. Duke Zohar roared. Both his and Duke Gamliel's factions have suffered great losses due to their violent conflicts, which was like an active volcano erupting after 100 years of slumber. Once it started, it couldn't have been stopped. If he hadn't been told the Della Rosa household was behind the secret deaths of the first-seated heirs, he would have most likely continued to fight Duke Gamliel until one of them fell. TCH. Galen clicked his tongue as he listened to the roars of men and their footsteps. He estimated there were at least 200,000 men and at least 10 Transcendent-level warriors outside. Furthermore, this wasn't the last of them, as there were even more on their way over. Even if he was arrogant, he wasn't blindly arrogant. He knew that even a mighty elephant could still be bitten to death by ants. It seems I have wasted too much time, Galen acknowledged his mistake for desiring to boast. It seemed he wasn't devilish enough yet. Kakik, no matter. Even if more of you come, you will still have to wait your turn. Suddenly, the bloody tornado rapidly expanded, engulfing everything within the Della Rosa household. It became a new barrier that blocked outsiders from entering. I haven't tried this before, so even I don't know how effective it'll be. Let us find out, shall we? Galen grinned. Boom. 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 Just as Galen spoke, Kvat and his peers launched their surprise attacks from different directions. Galen's location was quickly barraged with powerful fire spells, and the land was devastated by their destructive power. The earth cracked, and clouds of dust and soil rose from the impacts. These casual dragon breaths are more deadly than fully charged rank 5 Magitech cannons. Emperor Varen's lips twitch at the sight. However, he quickly frowned at the obscured vision. It was good that the dragons didn't wait to find out what Galen intended to do, but it was hard to say if their surprise attacks were effective. TCH, so impatient. Galen's dismissive words resounded from within the cloud of dust and soil, dispelling their doubts. Indeed, their attacks weren't effective. Shortly after, they saw Galen's figure protected by crystallized blood walls that seemed tougher than most metals. Although they didn't completely cover Galen, his burns were healed almost instantly. Such a sight made everyone feel even more heavy-hearted. Before anyone else could follow up with another attack, Galen's crimson eyes beamed with greater intensity. In that instant, a shroud of black smoke gushed out from his body, flooding the entire De La Rosa household before merging with the blood barrier. Dream Domain, expand. Previous chapter. After Galen's dream domain captured everyone within the De La Rosa household, Emperor Varen and a few dozen Imperial guards looked at the familiar desolate world with a crimson sky, stunned. They had unexpectedly returned to this accursed place. However, what shocked them the most was the number of people brought inside. It was 1,000 times greater than their previous numbers. No matter how much Galen had grown, it shouldn't be 1,000-fold stronger, right? Emperor Varen and his Imperial guards had ugly expressions as they stared at Galen's relaxed expression in the distance. At the same time, Galen looked back at them and seemed to have guessed what they were thinking, making him chuckle a little. Kakik, relax, little lambs. If I were truly that strong, would be considered divine already, Galen said with amusement before shaking his head. But even if I am not divine, the current me is not someone you can hope to defeat. You may or may not have noticed, Varen boy, but this is not the same domain space as before. It has lost most of its original functions and only has one purpose, to augment my combat power. It is a true slaughter domain. Galen grinned. Galen raised his hand, and a blood sword, brimming with blood energy, instantly condensed on his palm. Allow me to demonstrate, Galen casually stated. However, in the next instant, he swung his blood sword at the crowd of Imperial soldiers and guards without warning. Dodge it. Emperor Varen roared madly. Alas, the speed of a peak transcendence attack wasn't something most non-transcendents could hope to Pucci. Galen's blood wave swept through the crowd of Imperial soldiers and guards, shattering barriers, swords, and armor alike. The fortunate men survived with bloody gashes or dismembered limbs, while the unfortunate ones were directly cut in half. However, there wasn't anyone truly fortunate after receiving a sword wound from Galen. Galen. And my blood is. Arg. Shrieks and cries of terror resounded as blood gushed out of open wounds, reducing the wounded survivors into empty shells of bones and flesh. Their blood was completely drained in a matter of seconds. It was a terrifying sight to behold. Furthermore, the blood was absorbed by Galen, enhancing his physique, recovery abilities, and blood magic a step further. Boom! Galen's aura surged wildly, pressuring those around him as he took a step closer to the ranks of demigods. Everyone felt suffocated and oppressed, even the De La Rosan members who had also been dragged inside the slaughter domain. Even though Galen was their old ancestor, they couldn't help but fear what had become of him. Considering what happened to one of the High Elders, he feared Galen only viewed them as blood carriers to exploit when he desired it. They couldn't help but retreat a few steps, drawing their distance from him. Galen noticed such subtle movements, but he didn't care. As long as they didn't turn against him, it mattered not what they did. How? How can that be? The brother next to me only had a small cut on his arm. And yet he died just like that. A horrified Imperial soldier fell to the ground, feeling weak from the fear. Galen's vicious and cruel ability had truly shaken everyone to the core. No one could imagine his control over blood would be powerful to such an absurd degree. However, it also strengthened their conviction to slay Galen. All vampires had to die. Venerable dragons, I beseech you to assist me in slaying this old demon. A scourge like him must not be allowed to remain in this world. Emperor Varen urgently requested before stressing, we must prevent another blood calamity from happening at all costs. Naturally, Kvat answered, landing on top of the inners with his fellow dragons. Although the slaughter domain didn't seem to restrain them from leaving, they couldn't abandon the humans within to the newly awakened vampire. It was hard to determine how much more powerful the vampire would become if it were permitted to devour the blood of everyone within its domain. Naturally, Kvat didn't need Emperor Varen's warnings to understand the gravity of the situation. Situation. Kvat sighed with regret, I didn't expect this situation to develop like this so quickly. It seems even I can't escape the pride and overconfidence of being a young dragon. To actually let the enemy make a counterattack like this. This is a stain on my life. Kvat's eyes clouded with darkness and gloom as he despised his weaknesses and flaws. Everyone, please put your trust in me and buy me some time. If you do, I will create an opportunity to turn this situation around, Kvat promised. Before his departure, the Supreme Leader had rewarded him with a barrel's worth of divine rank stalactite milk. He was hoping for a more opportune time to consume it and maximize his gains, but alas, the present situation didn't maximize his gains, but alas, the present situation didn't permit it. You have a solution, Kvat? Freygar asked. Kvat silently nodded. Very well. We will buy you as much as possible, Freygar agreed before inciting her peers, brothers and sisters, this demonic human has been far too arrogant. Let us show him the pride and might of our dragon clan. The Supreme Leader must have purposely arranged this trial for us. Only when we leave his protection and overcome disaster on our own will we truly grow and walk the path of the strong. Roar. For early transcendent true dragons responded with their proud dragon roars, shaking heaven and earth. To their surprise, Galen's domain was also destabilized for a brief moment due to it. Galen was startled by the momentary cracks in his slaughter domain, which weakened his control over blood within the domain space. Such a flaw wasn't permitted to persist. As expected, your kind poses the greatest threat to me. Very well, I will take care of you all first. Galen's blood-red eyes flashed with strong killing intent. Die. In that instant, the blood mist clouds in the crimson sky condensed dozens of blood-solid spears. The blood spears rained down on Freygar and her peers like heavenly rods carrying out judgment on behalf of the heavens. The friction of air instantly transformed them into flaming blood spears as they descended. Block it together. Freygar roared with madness. The 5 dragons quickly combined their magical power to conjure a 5-layered green barrier to shield them and Kavat. Sizzle. At the moment of contact, 3 layers of green barriers shattered in very short intervals before the dozens of flaming blood spears turned into purplish-black sludges that refused Galen's control as they clotted and corroded simultaneously. Surprisingly, Freygar and her peers all thought of using poison magic to counter Galen's blood power. Moreover, it was far more effective than they had expected. We can win. Freygar's eyes lit up. Previous chapter. Sacred Tirtha, Inner Sanctum. On the forbidden and deepest floor beneath the sacred Tirtha, an old woman in white robes knelt on a prayer mat with her hands linked like the most devout believer. In front of her was a large dragon statue made of gold. However, at that moment, boiling blood was pouring down on the golden dragon statue and out of its orifices as it deformed and melted away, gradually revealing a different statue of silver hidden within. The silver statue was of a winged lady with seemingly unparalleled beauty and grace, shimmering with gentle moonlight. Those who could recognize it would understand it was a statue of the great devil Hecate. However, the luminescent silver-white light that emanated from it could easily instill doubts in people's hearts as Hecate's statue seemed like the very definition of sacred and holy. It was hard to associate it with one of the great devils of Gehenna, commonly known as evil, impure, bad luck, and the bringer of calamities and sufferings. Oh, Holy Mother of Witches, the goddess of the moon, and giver of knowledge. Forgive this child's sins for going against your original teachings and bringing death upon the land graced by you, the ex-great shaman, Laetitia, prayed. This child can no longer tolerate the sins of men and their heinous beliefs that disgrace the Great Mother. They are vile, incorrigible, and completely unworthy of your love and teachings. As it pains me, please grant this child divine protection and strength to carry out the great undertaking of cleansing this filthy land and letting it reborn anew, one made in your image. The world is blind, and the people are misguided. They oppress your children, and the lost ones remain ignorant of the origins of their magic. They believe their power is their own, never knowing of the great kindness you have bestowed upon them. Please give this child the strength to correct this flawed world and spread your name, oh, Holy Mother. As Laetitia continued to seek forgiveness and blessings through her prayers, a younger lady with similar features to her barged inside the inner sanctum in tears. Mother. Lilanna. My child is gone. She has been killed. Please let me go out there, Mother. I must avenge my poor child. The current great shaman, Limanna, pleaded in tears. Laetitia softly sighed before saying, Cease your tears and sorrows, my child. Lilanna is not dead. Her mortal body may have perished, but not her soul. She only went to see the Holy Mother before us and be welcomed into her divine kingdom. This is not a tragedy but a blessing. Her premature departure only tells us she was not ready for this tainted world. When she is ready, and the Holy Mother deems her so, she will be born of flesh and blood once more. Separation is only temporary, not eternal. You will see her again in due time, my child. Once our mission is complete, we will definitely reunite. Laetitia consoled her daughter as her eyes flashed with a hint of sadness. She was not completely indifferent to Lilanna's death. After all, while Lilanna was Limanna's daughter, she was also her granddaughter. Furthermore, she was far more obedient than her 2 eldest daughters, whom she had disowned for their defiance and unteachable behaviors long ago. Thank you for your kind words of wisdom, Mother. Limanna held Laetitia's hand to her cheeks and felt its soothing warmth, washing away the sorrow in her heart a little. However, it did nothing to extinguish the burning hatred she felt at the same time. What should I do with all this anger I feel in my heart, Mother? Am I supposed to pretend it doesn't exist? Limanna asked helplessly as her desire for revenge burned. Keep it burning in your heart, my child. Lilanna may have gone to see the Holy Mother, but it also does not change the fact that her killers took her away from us. Thus, we must never forgive them, let alone forget, Laetitia preached. The chance to avenge this debt of blood will come, but it is not now, my child. Right now, we must focus on carrying out our great mission and ensuring the ceremony of great cleansing succeeds. Once the ceremony of great cleansing succeeds, your chance will come, Laetitia promised with wholehearted conviction as if the future would be as she foretold. Limanna took in a deep breath before calmly replying, I understand, Mother. I will heed your words. There's something this child doesn't quite understand and hopes Mother can shed some light on. What exactly is the ceremony of great cleansing? Limanna asked. I've received instructions for the preparatory steps, but the function and purposes are unclear. The ceremony of great cleansing is a divine-level array that will wash this land of its filth and remold it in the Holy Mother's image, allowing us, her children, to preach her name and spread her faith openly without fear of being tainted and oppressed by the worldly filth again. After Laetitia's vague explanation, she hesitated for a moment before adding, Actually, I'm not too clear either. However, it is something your grandfather entrusted us to prepare. He is the Holy Son, the one chosen by the Holy Mother. Only he can hear and interpret the Holy Mother's divine messages. We only need to listen and follow the tasks he delivers to us, no matter how contradictory they seem to the Holy Mother's original teachings. The Holy Mother's intentions will be clear to us in time, child. Until then, we can only have faith in the Holy Son, and in the Holy Mother. Rumble. Just as Laetitia finished speaking, the inner sanctum's limestone ceilings suddenly shook due to a powerful impact on the surface. The sudden disturbance surprised both mother and daughter. It didn't take long before they heard the cries of alarm, fear, and panic from the surface, causing their expressions to change. We are under attack. Does that mean grandfather? The Holy Son failed to delay the enemies? Limana doubted. Cease your impure thoughts, child. There's no time for blind guesses. You are Sacred Tirtha's current great shaman. Our people will need your leadership to resist external threats, Laetitia mentioned solemnly before urging, go, quickly. Yes, mother. Limana was allowed no time for other thoughts as she quickly complied.